What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more soundtrack slash score, back with another tune from a J-drama, and in fact, this is one of the very first J-dramas I ever watched. I watched it with a longtime friend of mine, originally a girlfriend, and then like a year after we broke up, we sort of reconnected and just started being friends, and I continue to know her to the present day, although she lives like 2,000 miles away across the country, so, we don't talk as much as we used to, but she was the one who got me into J-drama, and this is one of the very first ones I watched. I think we watched Nodame Cantabile. I think we watched that before, but this was right around the same time, and indeed, I think it came out like maybe '06 or '07. No, actually, My Boss, My Hero. I think that might have been the very first one, and I think that was '05. But yeah, bottom line, this is a show called Hana Yori Dango. It roughly translates to Boys Over Flowers. It's like a romance, sort of, silly comedy drama, but the more the show goes on, it's 2 seasons. First season, like I said, I think it's like '08, and then the second season, I think it was '09, and then eventually there's a movie that finishes it called the Hana Yori Dango Final, the movie, and I think that's 2010, maybe 2011. But yeah, it's based on a manga, and again, if you know, like, Japanese manga, it can often be like reality plus, or at least like there's reality plus like silly moments, even if the overall story tends to be more serious. This very much falls in line with that, in that like it starts, very kind of reality plus, very like, comedic exaggeration and so on, but as with a lot of other J-dramas, not just like rom-coms, which this essentially is, but even other genres, like, it'll be silly in reality plus, but the more the story goes on, the more like real emotions and experiences like creep into the story, and this is very much the case with this one. It stars Matsumoto Jun, or Matsujun as he is sometimes called. He's a hilarious actor. He's also one of the guys in the J-pop band Arashi. Yeah, he's a really funny actor. This is, I think, his sort of breakthrough role. It's what, propelled him to, really big stardom, even though he was already, like, a star at this point. I've seen him in a number of different types of shows. Generally, he does act in, like, comedies and, like, romances, like, more than, action or, like, gritty sort of shows, although he's the star character in a show called Lucky 7 Detective Agency, which is, I guess, based on, like, a show, I think it's from the UK. But yeah, it's like the Japanese version of that show, and that one, it's a bit more of a serious role, and there's a lot of action and like fighting, so he does a lot of stuff, but this is where I first saw him, and Inoue Mao is the female lead. Haven't seen her in nearly as many things as Matsujun, but she has acted in other J-dramas over the years. We're going to listen to a tune. It's an actual song, not just score. It's like actual soundtrack. And the artist is Otsuka I. Otsuka like Otsuka, and then I like AI. At least that's how it's translated in Romaji, or how it's rendered in Romaji, which is to say Japanese in the Roman alphabet. In any case, we're gonna listen to a tune that Otsuka I did called Planetarium. This plays, I think it also plays in the second season, maybe it's just the first season. I think it is just the first season. But again, as the show goes on, there's more and more kind of like angst and like, like they're starting to come, the main two characters are starting to kind of come together, but then something will happen and it messes it up for a while, and there's a misunderstanding, and there's a lot of like, back and forth, like personal, like emotional drama, including a couple like really sort of emotional moments, again, especially as the show goes along. And then, like, there'll be moments where one of them is kind of like, brooding about what's happened, or, looking out a window and kind of thinking, like, how do they feel and whatever. And this song will often play during those, like, they're trying to make sense of the emotions they're feeling and so on. So it's a pop song. It's a sort of like sad pop song. It's a song that you might put on when you're feeling emotional or thinking about a past relationship or whatever. It really does have that feel. So it fits what they tried to do with the song. I don't know if it's a song that Otsuka recorded for the soundtrack specifically, or whether Planetarium is something that was on one of her albums that was then just used as part of the soundtrack. But either way, let's get to it. This is Planetarium by Otsuka I, and It's originally heard by me as part of the Hana Yori Dango Season 1 soundtrack. Let me just check to see what year Hana Yori Dango is before I start. And there's also a sequel show, but I'll talk more about that when we get to it. Okay, so Hana Yori Dango 1 aired 2005, so yeah, it was right around when I was first starting to watch J-drama. And then Season 2 was 2007, and then the movie was 2008, and that was a little earlier than I thought. But yeah, bottom line, 2005 to 2008 was the run of Hana Yori Dango, like the original. In any case, the music overall, who did the music? Does it say? Oh yeah, Yamashita Kosuke, but this, as I said, is by Otsuka I, and it's called Planetarium. Power and percussion in this section, or this verse. Seeing what she, like, your feelings, or how you feel. One way to say you. I hate something. The guitar. The piano guitar combo is nice. firework, they call it diegetic sound, but like a firework explosion worked into the percussion of the track. I like the ending of this tune. That ending part with those sort of like breathy kind of backing vocals, I don't know why, it like reminded me of a Madonna song like in that moment. But yeah, it's funny because, you know, like oftentimes in the soundtrack they'll use like part of the song, not the whole tune, like during a scene. There's a lot of scenes where they use that opening, that kind of like wistful piano opening, and again they're like maybe looking out the window or they're like super stressed out in their room about what's like happening. But there's a couple of scenes where they use that end with that like kind of dramatic, where it's like full and kind of marching to the end, and it finishes with that like breathy kind of vocal. And I'm thinking there's an episode early on, it's maybe like the end of the second or third episode, and there's a prominent moment where that that part of the piece is used. So yeah, I mean, again, you have to kind of like be into manga kind of comedy. It's a show that is, again, it's very silly, but also like really serious too, especially like when it starts, it's maybe like a 70 silliness, 30 dramatic, like kind of romance, and then as it goes on, it's still funny, still silly in parts, but like it gets more serious and the like emotional content like goes up. But yeah, it's a cool show, and again, it's always like really nostalgic for me because it's one of the shows that got me into J-drama in the first place, and it reminds me of, you know, the period with that girlfriend and, you know, who became just like a friend later. But yeah, we used to watch a lot of J-drama, so it's like nostalgic and as well as good. But yeah, shout out to Otsuka do let me know what you think of the tune. Again, like, I don't speak fluent Japanese. I've watched enough J-drama that, you know, there's a lot of words like nouns, verbs, and so on. Or like verbs is like complicated because of the way that des is like used like to be verb, but it's like more all-encompassing. Regardless, I won't bore you with sort of my like incomplete arcane understanding, but bottom line, like, there's some lines there where I think I know what she's saying, but I certainly don't know the lyrics overall. But I do think that you can appreciate what a song is doing and the atmosphere that it conveys, even if you don't understand the language it's in. So yeah, let me know what you think of the tune. Other than that, I will see you next time. Peace.